doing another little mechanical project how-to video servicing a 500 Foreman Honda ATV. These things require a valve adjustment, oil filter change, that sort of thing. After the first 20 hours, I believe it is, and then after that every 100 hours, or at least annually if the machine isn't used very often. A lot of folks neglect checking the suspension and the brakes and that kind of stuff, and we'll go over all that too, since that's important. Be using a normal assortment of hand tools plus some torque wrenches. It's really important that we don't over tighten the oil drain bolt, stuff like that. So torque wrenches are a must-have. As far as supplies go, the thing uses about just short of 3 quarts of motor oil. The engine oil for this thing, 10W40 works for most climates. If it's really cold, you could go thinner than that. I don't think I'd really run anything thicker even in a hot climate. And the oil needs to be an API rating of SG or higher. The S basically indicates that it's a spark ignition, in other words a gasoline engine rating oil. And most oil now is rated SJ or higher. SJ came about basically zinc friction modifiers that were in other oils, or modifiers that contain zinc rather, caused problems with the catalytic converters in cars. So the SJ came out without that additive in order to help automobiles meet their 100,000 mile emission tests. Anyway, the other rating we wanted to have is the JSOMA rating. The MA rating is motorcycle specific, and the Foreman, like most of Honda's ATVs, shares engine oil with the clutches and the transmission. The MA rating indicates that the oil is suitable for wet clutch applications, that it will provide the right amount of friction for the clutch. So it's really important you get that oil with that MA rating. Also, nothing with Teflon or PTFE, and no moly. I'm going to use the Honda's HP4 oil, which is a synthetic blend that meets those requirements. Oil filter. I prefer to use the actual Honda filter. They're not particularly expensive, so I don't really see a reason to go with an aftermarket filter. Hondas are nice, high quality. The other thing specific about the Foreman and several other machines that use this filter, it can be put in backwards accidentally, and if you do so, it will block all oil flow to the engine with predictable results. You'll ruin the engine. Hondas are, the Honda filters rather, are marked, stamped right on the end of it, this side out towards filter cover, and this side and spring towards engine. So it reduces the chance that you'll mess that up. Basically the end with the opening and the O-ring there goes to the cover, and the cover has a passage that oil flows through to flow through the filter. Every 2 years, Honda ATVs and pretty much anything else need to have the brake fluid changed. The spec for these is .4, and .4 basically is a higher performance brake fluid than .3. In other words, it has a higher boiling point. And so you do not want to use .3 in a vehicle that calls for .4 like this, because if the brake fluid gets too hot and vaporizes, that vapor compresses, whereas liquid brake fluid doesn't. So if you ended up with vapor in the brake system, you end up with no brakes, and that's not a good thing. So make sure you use .4. I'd also mention .5 is a silicone based brake fluid, mainly used in Harleys. .3 and 4 eat paint, .5 doesn't. The two are not compatible. If you mix them, you'll end up with a big mess, and you'll end up disassembling the brake system to clean all the little parts. So I just wanted to bring up .5 is not a better version of .4. It's different chemistry, and .4 is the correct brake fluid for this application. Also, brake fluid collects moisture from the atmosphere, from the air, and you want basically brake fluid that has not collected moisture, because having it dry like that gives you that higher boiling point. So don't use a bottle of brake fluid that's been sitting around on a shelf for the last couple years or whatever. Get you one that's sealed. As long as you're going through the time to change it, use the right stuff out of a sealed or just recently opened bottle. The last thing we need supply-wise, this machine has a foam air filter, so we'll need to clean that and re-oil it. From the factory, it comes with a petroleum-based filter oil on it, which is just fine. You can clean it with kerosene or diesel and re-oil it. Don't use gasoline. It has a lower flash point, and also over years can degrade the glue that's in the filter. It's just basically a lot safer to use odorless kerosene or diesel fuel. I, however, really prefer Pro Honda has a line of foam air filter cleaner and oil, which is non-toxic and biodegradable. The nice thing about this stuff, once you get the original petroleum-based oil out of the filter, cleanup with this stuff is really, really easy, and you don't have to deal with any stinky petroleum-based solvents. This biofilter oil, however, does not wash out with kerosene or gasoline or anything like that. It'll turn into a slimy mess if you try. So if you get this Pro Honda stuff, it comes with a sticker put on the airbox so that whoever services the machine next knows that that's the filter oil that's on it. It's also waterproof. That filter oil won't rinse out in water, but the cleaner is a powdered soap that you just kind of mix it with some warm water and wring the filter through it, and it really strips the dirt and the old filter oil out really easily with no stink. The only disadvantage is once you've cleaned it with the soap there and rinsed it out under the sink, the filter is wet with water, which of course takes longer to evaporate, and you need the filter to be completely dry before you re-oil it. And you'd re-oil it in the normal way of pouring a little oil around the filter and sticking it in a freezer bag and mushing it around until the thing is saturated, and then letting that dry off a little bit and reinstalling it. So that's pretty much it for supplies we need. The drain bolt basically is under the center of the quad. It's a 17 millimeter nut. There's a hole in the skid plate to reach up there and pull that off. We want the ATV to have run recently when we drain the oil. Having the oil hot not only makes it drain faster, but you want it to have run recently so that any wear metal or contaminants or clutch material or whatever that's in there with the oil isn't settled out in the oil passages and so on inside the engine. You want it to have run so that that's all stirred up and those particles are in suspension. That way we get as much of that stuff out of the engine as possible. I might mention the drain plug there does have a crush washer. Make sure you don't lose it when you pull the plug out, that it doesn't fall down onto the skid plate or drop into the pan. So that'll be our first step, getting the oil drained, and then next we'll turn our attention to the oil filter. From there we'll be taking body work off to get to the head and do the valves, and every 2 years you also need to change the oil in the front and rear differentials, the final drives. They only take a few ounces each. Spec calls for an 80 weight. 75W90 will be just fine. You want it to meet the GL5 requirement. The API, American Petroleum Institute GL5 rating is for hypoid gears. The hypoid gear system, by the way, bevel gears would be gears that are cut, 90 degrees and basically transfer power at a 90-degree angle. And a hypoid system is where those two gear shafts aren't in the same plane, or the axis on which those shafts run. In other words, the pinion gear is offset from the plane that the ring gear is running in. And that gives the teeth end up with kind of a helical curve to them, and also the gear teeth actually slide against each other as they mesh. It's kind of like a cross between a straight set of bevel gears and a worm and a crown gear system. So anyway, they need good protection. So every 2 years we'll change that out. If you run through swamps and that kind of stuff a lot, you'll want to change it more frequently, or at very least pull the fill caps and look at it to make sure it hasn't turned to chocolate milk or otherwise gotten water contaminated. So with that, we'll get the engine oil out of this machine and get started. Okay, we've got our oil draining into a nice pan there. Might mention, be sure and dispose of used motor oil in an environmentally conscious way. Here at the Dalles, we're fortunate the Dalles Disposal offers curbside recycling for motor oil, which makes it really handy. Anyway, from there I've pulled this panel, which I'm sure any owner is familiar with. It just has little friction clips and then a little tab that engages the bottom of the floorboards there, which gets me access to the dipstick. I've also went ahead and pulled the seat. And on the other side of the machine, this side panel is the same thing. It just has rubber or little tabs there that engage little rubber catches, and then one Phillips screw for this panel, and then it pulls back. You can kind of see the tabs there where it pulls back from the floorboard, and that gives us access to the oil filter, which lives right under that cover. You can kind of see the way it's made there, that oil passes through the cover to get into the filter. That's why the open end goes out. Then there's our airbox lid with a little notice that it has bio oil in it, and just a matter of popping the spring clips off there, and cover only goes on one way, and it's nicely marked. If the machine were dirty, it would be easier to miss that, so I'll just mention that. And it looks like my air filter's in pretty good shape. I'm going to go ahead and clean it anyway. Also in here is a little sock filter for the crankcase vent, and then, as I recall, you pull this up and back, I believe, if I can get it to let go of the filter, and that little circle there engages on a little nub on the end of the filter. And after that, it's just a matter of whatever that is, a 5mm or Phillips screw to loosen that band clamp. And since the filter is going to take time to dry, we'll go ahead and pull it and clean it first.